saw this chap walk towards me. That was the old man. And I can't say the language. Who the F are you? My name's Richard Parramint. What are you doing here? I said, I sell office equipment. And he said, come with me. And he marched me onto the pit straight. He said, do you see all those people in the fields? And there was people dotted in the fields. I said, yes, I can see them. He said, you've got them to sack. Oh, have I? He said, they're my security people. I've booked this track. Sole usage. Nobody must come in. Oh, I said, I'm really sorry. He said, was there a chap in the hut? I said, I didn't stop. And just at that point, a car came roaring up with this well-built chap with a big stain on the front. And Chapman said to him, are you from the gate? Yeah. He said, this bloke came through so fast, so I drank my tea, jumped up, spilled the tea. He says, well, you were fucking sacked as well. And I said, I'm sorry, Mr. Chapman. I got, yeah, so...
yeah. I mean, did you...
Oh, sorry, I just swore in that.
No, that's all right. That's
okay,
all right.
sorry.
I
got carried away in the excitement.
I mean, you hear so many stories about Chapman. They're like people at the factory. Well, everywhere you see stories that Chapman, but how many people make up stories about Chapman? That's the thing. I mean, he was ruthless. He had to be in the world he was in. He had to be ruthless, otherwise he wouldn't be winning. Lots of people said he built dangerous cars. He didn't build dangerous cars. He built cars to win, really, and that was it. And yes, they were dangerous. All the cars were dangerous in those days, but he had that something.
Oh yeah, I
that
wish
could
you could
make things work, and people.
If you could bottle it, he always surrounded himself with good people, intelligent people, and you talk to the boys in Team Lotus, and they would say that you would work for him 24 hours a day, 7 days a week if you had to. But he was really hard on some of the mechanics. But then he was hard on the drivers. You know, I remember the story. I think it was Jackie Oliver. I forget what race it was now, but they'd put the gearbox ratios in the wrong way round.
Oh, dear.
And Jackie Oliver came steaming in the pits because the old man was there, the mechanics, and Jackie Oliver. Why don't you teach your people? They're putting the gear ratios the wrong way round. They're bloody useless. And Chapman said, get out of the car, come with me. And apparently took Jackie Oliver back to the pits. You do not tell my mechanics. That's my job to tell them. I employ you as a driver. You do the driving, I manage the team.
Yeah. So
he was...
so he defends his men. Yeah. And he's the only one that puts them down. No one else. Now, I mean, that's fair. I think that's just the character of the man. Really.
He was good bloke, good designer.
He was my hero as well. I mean, Lotus, I've always loved Lotus since I was a little kid, and like when the news came out that he died, it was kind of it was I don't know, it's a bit like that Elvis moment, isn't it? Where was you when Elvis died?
What, Elvis is dead?
Yeah, apparently, mate.
Gee, you're
kidding.
That's
how they say. We'll leave that one there. But yeah, it was just one of those characters.
That was a poor Elvis impression. That was really yours was worse than mine.
I never said I was an impersonator. Funny. So that was Chapman, the man who ran the factory. Obviously, Lotus changed after he died. The team changed. I think the factory changed. Everything changed. It was no longer run by one man, was it? It was run by several people.
I'd gone by then. See, I left in the early mid-70s, I suppose. Yeah, I was on my way then. But I think,
So, you got any standout memories of your time at the factory? Any characters that worked there that you can remember? I know it's a long while ago, but there must be the odd character here and there that you can remember.
I suppose there's so many stories that went on, because when the factory was first built, there was no security fence between the factory and the car park. So not that I ever did. I never sort of thieve anything, but you used to see them, especially in November when it's foggy. They could just come out the back of the factory straight into the cars, and you'd see one chap. I won't mention his name. I can't mention his name, but he walked out with a box of rev counters. Because it was foggy. But the funniest thing, again, I hadn't been working there very long, you just left school, you know, and you're sort of wet behind the ears,
Bit
aren't you?
naive, aren't you? Yeah.
And I walked into the changing rooms where all the lockers were, and I saw this chap who worked on the line, and he'd got all his clothes off. I thought, hello, this is a bit strange. I didn't sign up for this. And he had a huge roll of mutton cloth, you know, the stuff we used to clean the cars with. Yeah. And he was wrapping it all the way around himself, all around his body, arms, and here. And he must have seen me look at him, and he says, you can go if you want. And anyway, I followed him out, and he made a bit of a balls up, really, because he tied it too tight round his knees. So he was walking as if he'd messed himself. And of course, Sergeant Nunn on security. And these are the days when you could search, you could be searched.
Oh, yeah.
Of course, he was dragged in, never saw him again.
Yeah.
Oh, and
It's
there was another one. What was his name? Was he a charge hand? He was a charge hand. He was either on the P5 line, I think. Mick Wright. I never liked him. He was a bit arrogant. And we had those air guns, pop rivets, compressed.
Yeah.
Well, he'd always be picking one of those up, and if they caught him, Christ, they were bloody sore.
Yeah.
And he was renowned for it. He'd pick one, just hit people. And the bloke on carpets got really ticked off with this. And that must have hit him on the arm or something. He picked the brush up out of the pot of glue and threw it, and it stuck. It actually stuck on his head. Well, we were crying. Well, of course, he was not happy. So he immediately walked down picked up a full can of glue and tipped it over his head.
Oh no!
Yeah, and I think he was suspended for about 4 or 5 days for doing that. That was just. You can't do it now, health and safety.
No, I mean,
some
the
of the
line,
things.
from the time that I worked in the line, you could have a laugh as long as you did your job. And we used to do it at any working environment where it's predominantly all men. Yeah. Everyone mucks about. Sometimes it goes a little bit too far, but nowadays it just wouldn't happen. They drag people offline, they put them in, obviously give them a good talking to. Yeah. But them days, it was saying, stop something about with you. But I think it was more fun back then. It was probably less safe, but it was more fun.
Well, there was nothing like that. I remember the old cleaner we had, Billy Moore. He was from Ashwellthorpe, and he'd never been out of Norfolk. In fact, my brother John and Morris Doughton took him down to London. That was the first time. And Billy Moore must have been in his 70s, I suppose. I can see him now. Typical country boy. I was going to say that I paused at the wrong time. Big nose, big blue nose,
honey complexion,
and you couldn't understand a word because he was really broad. Yeah. And what we would do is, because he'd come with a bin, clearing the bins up, and you'd get talking to him. Of course, he'd talk, and he'd rest his bin on the workbench. Somebody go around the back of them, pop rivet to seeing things like that. You wouldn't get away with anymore.
We used to do on the line. We used to get the old tie wraps. They get some. Everyone had their little tool trolleys. Yeah. You tie wrap them to the stillage. When they come in the morning, they go to pull it. And just all the tools go over the floor. And there's lots of swearing, lots of sniggering.
See, but you're posh. We never had tie wraps. And that. See,
well, probably weren't the 60s. They probably weren't invented then, was that, mate? So that's it. Yeah, I mean that's. I think that's what's changed a lot in a lot of trades now, where because of health and safety, a lot of things that were a laugh have been frowned upon now, and you can't do them no more. That's so working life, I don't think it's got better. Probably conditions are better, but I think really for the laughter. I mean, I was an apprentice motor mechanic.
Yeah. Well, I don't think I've ever grown up.
No,
that's the trouble.
That's the trouble with me as well. Yeah,
I'm still playing practical jokes. Just it's mad, isn't it?
I think people used to do it just to get themselves through the day.
You see, now I'm sort of 45 years old. You'd have thought.
So I didn't hear that probably then.
I wish I was 45 again. Anyway.
Anyway, so you didn't stay at Lotus that long the first time?
No.
What made you leave?
I just got, I suppose it was the quality on the cars. we went onto a bonus.
Or lack of, you mean?
Yeah. We went on a bonus scheme. The more cars we could pass to sales, the more bonus we got.
Yep.
So you're in a situation, because I was on rectification, right? So the cars were signed off when we'd finished with them.
Yep.
So they'd be signed off, and another one for sales, and then we'd have a shortage. So I'd have to go out and nick the parts off the car that we'd just passed to sales to fit it on the next car that we'd passed to sales.
Yeah.
Nick it off. It was just ridiculous, and it got so bad that things were being covered up. The worst thing was on +2 chrome window frames. They were a shit to change.
Yeah.
And if you got it was a shit to change those.
Yeah.
So what would happen? We were being told, because we used to put that cloth adhesive tape on, protect.
Yeah. Yeah.
Quickly put that on before the inspector see it. And I just didn't agree with that. See, I was only probably 19, 20.
Yeah.
And I just thought people are paying money for these cars. And anyway, and then I just saw a job advertised with a company car, and the deal was done. So I went into a world of sales.
But although you left the factory, you've kind of stayed with Lotus throughout the years in one way or another.
Yeah.
So your involvement with Classic Team Lotus, how did that begin?
I just became a bit of a pain to them, really, because.
Didn't try and sell them a shredded.
No, I'd always be sticking my head in the door, and the chap who was the accountant in those days, chap by the name of Manning Buckle, nice chap, and he'd always laugh at me, and he always said, the trouble with you, Richard, as far as Lotus are concerned, Team Lotus are concerned, you see things through rose-coloured spectacles here, and being a Lotus fan was a problem. So I'd always go in, is there anything I can help you with? Do you want anything clean, any cars cleaning, any wheels cleaning? Yeah. So I'd get little jobs like that. And they gradually got to know me and knew that I was probably quite harmless and just a fan.
And maybe useful.
Well, I don't know about that. and